Coming before us is an entrepreneur who's traveled across the oceans just to be with us. And I'm going to read out his profile for you. He has over 30 years serving on the board as a senior management level in both private and public sectors and the voluntary sector. He's the chairman of the Fair Trade Pioneers Traidcraft and the Traidcraft Exchange and the Cotton Connect Limited and the Allia. He's the recipient of several honorary doctorates from the prestigious universities in Bristol, in Southampton Business Institute and the Imperial College. And he's also on the advisory board and also the vice president of the Institute of Business Ethics. Brothers and sisters, may I call upon stage our very own Mr. Ram Gidoomal, please. So please welcome on stage.
And I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to speak here today. Thank you for your warm welcome, your generous hospitality, and I count it a great privilege and an honor to have been asked to speak here this morning. My wife's name is Sunita. We have 3 children, Ravi, Nina, Ricky, all married, and 7 grandchildren. You wouldn't believe it. I look so young, don't I? No. So, I'm a Sindhi. Oh dear, I can hear people saying. We are generally known as a business community. If it moves, we'll sell it. You know, idhar ka maal udhar ka maal idhar. Dono taraf se hum paisa kamaega. We are very well known for that. So, my grandparents were silk traders from Japan to the African ports where the British were building railways. They realized there's a market. All the men who were involved in building a railway took their families. The wives would need saris, silk saris. They're earning lots of money. So silk was supplied from Japan over 100 years ago, before the time of internet, telegrams, anything like that. Can you imagine? They made so much money. They bought a palace in Hyderabad, Sindh, the other Hyderabad. Moti Mahal, it's still there. You know, very often you think your parents and grandparents exaggerate. Oh, you're just saying it. It's there, photographs there. But 47, partition. They were forced to flee. There were Hindus on the wrong side of the border. They got on a ship and landed in Kenya, where there were businesses. So I was born in Kenya. So I still speak Swahili. After all these years, I haven't forgotten Swahili. Again, 20 years later, East Africa got independence. By now, from our beginnings, we've now had 15 bedrooms. We had Mercedes cars, servants, a very successful life. Overnight, gone, deported. 15 of us arrived in London, and we arrived in a place called Shepherd's Bush, from one bush to another bush, and we bought a corner shop. Can you imagine the humiliation for the family? Lose everything, 15 of you in 4 bedrooms, and these bedrooms were horrible. But it didn't matter. The chocolates and the sweets in the shop kept us children very happy. So we loved the shop, but we had to work morning till night. Within 2 years, we had 6 shops. I told you we are traders. People watching, car, color television. Suddenly, we are back in it. Now, none of my brothers or sisters, we were a large family, went into university. But I promised my parents that my father, I would go. And I was in charge of the finances. Even at the age of 16. I went to Imperial College to study physics. For 2 years, I stayed at home because I was safe now. You know, you are foreigners. We landed as refugees. You're foreigners in a different country. So we keep together as one community, one family. Sunday lunch, 50 Sindhis will come to our house. Tiny house, but you're family. You're together. You're eating together, sitting on the stairs, sitting on the floor, but that was the experience. Now, 1 year, I had to go to university. I had no choice. The 3rd year. And that was tough. You know, I can sell across the counter. I don't have to get to know my customer too well. But to go to university, I now have to meet other people, work with them, live with them in the next door room. I didn't know how to communicate with them. I was very lonely. You see, that loneliness, that inability to make friends, really, it just became clear to me as I sat in my room. I was brought up in a Hindu home. We also believed in Sikhism, so we had both the Hindu faith and the Sikh faith. Monday night was at the Shiva Mandir. Saturday night was the Gurdwara. We had Akhand Paths at home, Asadivar, you name it, we were doing that. And then we had at home satsangs with the priests coming to do that. So, very religious family. And guess which school my parents sent me to? The Hindu school was oversubscribed. The Sikh school was oversubscribed, so I was sent to a Muslim school. From the age of 5 until the age of 16, for 10 years, every day, Islamic assembly. Even today, I can recite the Quran and give you the names of all the different folk in it. So 3 faiths, 3 insurance policies. But no Christianity for you, young man, or for anyone in the family. That is the white man's God. He is the colonial God. He's come from London. You know, I really believe Jesus came from London. I imagine Jesus in a pinstripe suit, bowler hat, blue eyes, blonde, from the London. That was my picture of Jesus. My friends, it raised questions for me. Who is God really? Each one of the faiths I'd encountered claimed superiority to the others, rules, regulations unique to each of them. But I was brought up, we were brought up to respect all faiths. We would have at our home Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, all together. Not Christianity. When I arrived at Imperial College for the first time to live in the college, very lonely, I had questions. I remember I would ask my mom, look, there are all these poor people in Mombasa. Why are they poor? What is the problem? She said, Beta, in Sindhi I will say it, "Ye jo karma hai, ye uska karma hai. They are paying for their karma, don't worry. Give them a bakshish, give them a gift. That's it, you know." Okay. And then she said, we have a principle of karma. What you sow, you will reap. Sow good, you will get good. Do bad, you will get bad. I said, very logical. And if not in this lifetime, the next lifetime. But my conscience still was very, very pricked. So what did I do in the first week at college? Where do you find friends? So I found this great British invention, the pub. Do you know what a pub is? Gutto, you know, you get your beer, they pour for you, people are sitting there. So I went to the pub, never been there before. Sat in the pub, half pint lager, couldn't afford 1 pint, half pint please. And I said, what happened in my family? You see, my father, within 6 weeks of arriving in Kenya, died in tragic circumstances. He was humiliated for losing the palace. He was the eldest son. My uncle, my earthly father, who brought me up from my 6 weeks old. In fact, you know, I never even knew he wasn't my biological father. You know, the Asian Indian family is such a fantastic family extended. I never knew until I was the age of 11 that he wasn't my biological father. But it didn't make any difference because he was such a good father. He was better than many biological fathers that my friends had. I was brought up wonderfully by him, wonderfully. He had, in fact, 100 relatives all over India. You know, when partition took place, you find Sindhi colonies everywhere. Well, in almost every colony, we had a relative. And when he was making money in Kenya, he would send it to the relatives, these NRI remittances to India to support them. Baroda, Pune, Navsari, all these places. He came. I sat in the pub thinking, why did my earthly father and my biological father die so prematurely? Why did they exit this world at their own will? To exit the cycle of life and death and birth so that they can try again in the next incarnation to have a better karma and a better chance? Why did they do it? Haunted me. And I sat in deep contemplation until suddenly the bang, you know, there was a band that started playing. I said, okay, what happened here? Yeah, I'm in a pub. I've come for peace and quiet, drinking, talking to friends. What is this? Then on the way in, I'd seen a notice. The notice said, the Forerunners playing tonight. I said, who's Forerunners? I don't know. F-O-R-E, runners. Rock for Christ. And it was in a pub they came. I ignored the notice. I said, I'll sit in the corner. But I couldn't help listening to the music. I was turning around now and again because between the music, people were sharing their stories, their testimonies, like they were witnesses. They were all, I said, oh, interesting. What is going on here? And one song struck me, a song by Bob Dylan. You may not have heard it before you were born and maybe never got here. Put your hands in the hands of the man from Galilee. I said, who is this man from Galilee in my mind? And then they started saying, he's Jesus. I said, Arey, kya Galilee se yaar? Ye to London se aaya hai. This is a, what Galilee, man? What are you talking? So, I was confused. And then they took out this book, the Bible, the big book. And from the big book, they were reading verses. When they read the verses, I said, I've seen these verses before. In fact, I know them by heart. Let me tell you how I got these verses by heart. When we arrived, one of our relatives, I won't say any more, I'll leave it deliberately vague, took an overdose. He couldn't cope. Maybe he was seeking an exit. Landed in hospital, stomach pumped, got, from behosh to hosh. Suddenly he's looking. There's a man in a black gown with a white collar standing. He tells me, he said, I thought I was in heaven now. Something has happened. Maybe I've landed in a different heaven. This is not the heaven I was expecting. This is white collar robe. He's come from the local padre. What is this? Well, he said, you're alive. He said, here is a little booklet. The booklet was called Daily Strength. 30 verses daily, which you read. He brought it home. We loved it. We said, these are beautiful verses. We didn't know where these verses came from. We didn't understand that even they're from the Bible. What do we know about Jinn 3:16 or Lamb 3:22? What does it mean, yaar? Who knows what they mean? You just read the verse. Other bit you choro, yaar. Just read the verse, man. You don't understand what those other things are. So I would read it every day. I would just read the verses, ignoring where they've come from. And these people are suddenly saying, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him, and they put it out from the Bible. I said, wrong. So at the end, you have to fill a form. I would like a further discussion. So I canceled the word discussion. I said, I'd like an argument. Come and see me. So they came to see me in my room. And this guy came, Big John. Now, by the way, he was over 6 foot tall. He was blonde. He had blue eyes. I got scared. I said, come. Maybe Jesus has come in his form. I don't know. I said, come and sit with me. And he was working in the city of London. He was an economist and a banker. But he came to my room, a first-year student. This guy is a graduate and working, no doubt making big money, but he's come to my room. I made coffee, and then we had an argument. Everything he brought out from the Bible, I gave him an answer from the Hindu scriptures because my father, earthly father, bought me the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Guru Granth Sahib in English was published, and I still, had those 4 volumes. So every angle they came, I had an answer. Even metaphysics. I was doing physics at Imperial College. So, arguments like, okay, I'm putting a book in the drawer, prove it's there. Very difficult, You try and think of it. He said, open it. I said, I came back. No. So we had an argument. Anyway, he gave up after 2 meetings. He said, but he left me with the Bible. Good news for modern man. He left it with me. He said, I'm giving you this. You be careful to do what is in the book. I thought, interesting. Because first I was arguing with him. Now I've got to, he left me. And I thought, I'm come here to study at college. I got to have an open mind. I must not be bigoted. I must not be prejudiced. I must not be closed. Can I open my mind and be prepared to read this book properly and study it? So, question, did Jesus exist? Now, I'm not going to repeat stuff here because our good brothers and sisters have answered a lot of evidential questions, and I know, Brother Govindrai, you've got those, all that is there. Historians, Tacitus, Pliny, these are historians who are not Christians talking about Jesus. Space-time history, evidence, whatever is in the Bible. For example, there is a pool mentioned in the Bible. Archaeologists said, no such thing, rubbish. It's discovered. Whoops. Oh, so it does exist. So the Bible actually has the answer and we've missed it all these years. or Julius Caesar comes to Britain. Who knows what the 3 words are that Julius Caesar said? Veni, vidi, vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. Now, we were taught that from childhood in the colonies. The evidence for that is half a dozen. The evidence for the Bible is thousands and thousands and thousands of artifacts that exist. So, what do? I said, okay, that's all very good. Okay, maybe Jesus existed. Yes, maybe all that is true. I got a problem. My pap. I'm a papi. I'm a sinner. Until now, karma principle helped me. But I'm still at questions. What about the person I offended? In the shop, we used to sell goods. Sometimes I didn't know the price. I'd double it. Poor customer doesn't know. I made, we made money. Pornographic books, top shelf. Is it right to sell those books? You turn a blind eye. Profit. We're just making money. We turn a blind eye. I'm reading the Bible, it's saying it's wrong. I realized sitting in the pub, I was spiritually bankrupt. My concern was my karma, my karmic debt. The karma I had from my previous incarnations and my current life. Being a good physicist, mathematician, I said, let me try an equation, substitution. If sin is karma, then Jesus must have died for my karma. And he must have died for my karmic debt. I got excited. I said, this is exciting. Maybe there is a solution. What if it was true? Then I started reading the New Testament very carefully. And you know, when I got to the book of Corinthians, I'd never heard of Corinthians, yeah, but I started reading it. I said, this book could have been written for the people of Soho. Soho in London is an area where there is prostitution, where there is the most awful things that go on. And in Corinthians, I started reading. I said, but this is referring to issues like that now, even though it's written 2,000 years ago. It is relevant. That message of forgiveness then became even more real. And I then got to the point where I, in my room, got on my knees. I opened the window. You know, he said, if you open the window, and he said, I will come in and eat with you. Jesus says, you know, behold, I stand at the door and knock. Open that door and I will come in. And I literally opened that window. It was freezing cold. It was December. Got on my knees. I said, Lord, I accept I'm a sinner. I accept that you died for my sins. I want forgiveness for my sins. And I want to commit my life to you and you only. And you know, from that prayer, that evening, I look back and I have never ever turned back from that moment. It just blew my mind and changed the course of my life. But, like all good fairy stories, you know, they'll say, and they lived happily ever after. No way. All sorts of challenges. You know, which church do I go to? I went with my address book to all the churches locally, took the addresses, came back. He said, if it's not in the Bible, don't do it. None of the addresses are in the Bible. So I never went to any church. And then, which denomination? Had I become a Protestant or a Catholic? I didn't know. I'd become a follower of Jesus. You know, until my son was born, then I was forced to answer the question in Geneva. He was born in Geneva, and then the lady registrar said, filling the form, nom, prénom, all in French, and this is a religion. I said, chrétien, Christian. She said, ça n'existe pas, doesn't exist. I said, kya not exist? I'm a Christian, I'm in front of you. She said, ou Protestant, ou Catholic. I said, oh dear. So, friends, I had a challenge. I went to see the pastor, I need counseling. So he said, okay. He gave me the answer, King Henry. I said, he's not in the Bible also. Why are you giving me these rubbish answers? So anyway, I put on a paper. I said, if I have to answer, I better answer. When I went there, the lady came running. Monsieur, after third day, after that you get fined. You know, end up in jail if you don't answer that. Voilà votre certificat. I said, what have you put in there? Restez calme. I put chrétien. And we have changed our computer program to accommodate people like you. Thank you, Jesus. And then my first visit to church. Where is the shoe rack? Where is the shoe rack? I changed my socks specially for the first visit. No, you put your shoes, stay. Where I want to sit on the carpeted area. No, you sit on these wooden pews. I said, how disrespectful to God. You must be in the lowest position. What are you guys doing? And then started the service. The organ blasted out. I said, kaun mar gaya? They said, nobody is dead. We are worshipping Jesus. I said, yeah, this is going to be tough. But it's only when I heard the message of Christ, when he took one verse of scripture, you are the salt of the earth. You know, he spent 20 minutes talking about what salt means, what that means, what that, you know, the fragrance, the taste, the value. It was the commodity of exchange salt, a preservative. I said, wow. I said, I will go back only to listen to him. And then to tell my mother, I told you my problems began. I knew that was a difficult one. Very tough. But I learned, and I don't have time to tell you the story. At the end, I'll tell you, I've written 2 books, which I will gladly give you with my compliments for free. They're e-books, and the organizers will gladly send you the e-books, along with 2 other books talking about different journeys. You're welcome to ask the organizers, and I'm sure they'll arrange to send it to you. But to my mother, I said, I'm following now. When I told her Jesus, she said, that's a swear word. You're following a rubbish God. Everyone swears in the shop, you know, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. I said, I'm following the Sanatan Satguru. She said, Guru, so I have followed many. Satguru, we read a lot in the Gurudwara. Lekin Sanatan Satguru, no one has claimed that. Tell me more. And there's a whole story that I have no time for. Sanatan Satguru is John 14:6. I am the way, the truth, and the life. But nicely said in Sanskrit, beautifully understood by my mom. Or this verse, for God so loved the world. I thought hard, how can I translate from my mother? So I told her, Yesu Masih is the Bodhisattva who faithfully fulfilled his dharma and whose merit in dying as the perfect self-sacrifice can pay for your own karma and allow our Atma to return to Brahma, resulting in full and complete moksha, negating any need for samsara. She said, Arey, I want to follow this guru, she said. You know, and bit by bit, trying to explain to her karma versus grace. There is a whole explanation of, when we get married in the Indian community, you have either Sari wedding or a dowry wedding. With a dowry wedding, lots of money exchanges hands, suitcases, suitings, lengths of suitcases every day coming in and out of houses for the wedding time. In the Sari, the expectation is we only want the girl. Bas, sirf Sari say, we want one girl just coming in Sari. So I asked the crowd once in Philippines, which of you parents here just send your girl only with the Sari? No hand went up. I said, you now send things, don't you? Why? Because you love your girl. I said, God loves us. That's why he did what he did. It is his. He didn't have to do it. He didn't have to do it. He did it because he loves us. And that is why he sacrificed himself. Today, over 50 members of my family have become followers of Jesus. Over 50. Have faith, have hope. It is as relevant for me and you following Christ as anybody else. I went on to do lots of things. After visiting Dharavi, set up a charity in Britain that raised £5 million and mobilized 50,000 teenagers to make a difference. That story is in the book. I went on to write books, Sari and Chips. And why did I write Sari and Chips? Young Asian girls in the overseas countries attempted suicide rate 4 times the national average. Why? They're brought up in those countries as Indians, but also as British, and then told at the age of 17, now, Bombay, matchmaking time, shadi. And boys as well. So I wrote a book challenging the community on that. Or I ran for mayor of London. Why? Because I saw inequality in London. Child born in Westminster, 5 years living more over a period than a child born in the poor part of London. Why? So I campaigned to be mayor of London. Yes, Doordarshan followed me everywhere. It was wonderful. I had more coverage in India than in Britain, but it was great fun. And I can tell you more. You'll get all that. But for me, ultimately, I want to say, it is Jesus who paid for my karma. My karmic debt is cleared. It is Jesus who loved me so much, so much, so much that he gave his one and only son as a sacrifice for my sins and for every single one of you here. God bless you all. Thank you.